Good afternoon and welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. And I apologize for yesterday, but I was in and out and unable to do the podcast. Sub-Saharan Africa, look at this photograph published by Chantal Biya, the wife of the President Biya of Cameroon, 25th wedding anniversary. And that took me to an article I'd written on the 1st of April called World's End. And Joan told me I was becoming far too apocalyptic, but I quoted Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci: the crisis consists precisely in the fact that the old is dying and the new cannot be born. In that same article, I said in Africa in particular, a lot of leadership is in the departure lounge, but Bouteflika is surely the most extreme example. Shutting down the internet has become an important weapon to some autocrats. It's bad, but it shows that they are fearful. If they're not, they're deluded. Thus ended Mr. Bashir's 30-year rule, writes David Pilling in the Financial Times. Shortly before Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir was toppled on April 11th, he asked to see Lieutenant General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hameti, who's being reinvented by the Gulf, by the way, the head of a paramilitary force under his command. At the meeting, according to Lieutenant General Hamdan, the 75-year-old president quoted a piece of Islamic jurisprudence that supposedly gives a leader the right to kill up to a third of his people. This was the point I was making in that article about Ouagadougou. A third is just not on. You're long gone. Lieutenant General Hamdan refused. I said, God forbid. That was our last interaction before sending him to Kober maximum security prison, where he sent many of his adversaries. Thus ended Mr. Bashir's 30-year rule. In Sudan and also Algeria, where another authoritarian ruler was ousted this month, militaries that had long preserved the rule of one man have responded to popular uprisings by turning against their heads of state. We are now powerful because we have those people on the street, Paul Virilio. Once those people withdraw, the army will not talk to us. That's a fact. As I said in January, I said Bashir is a political Harry Houdini. Otherwise, he would not have lasted more than 3 decades. But it's clear these are the last days or the end times. Regarding the street, Paul Virilio, the revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form, not in the place of production, but in the street, where for a moment it stops being a cog in the technical machine and itself becomes a motor, a machine of attack, in other words, a producer of speed. Foreign affairs, people power is rising in Africa. New tide of people power is rising in Africa. Talking about Bouteflika, Bashir, the non-violent overthrows of Bouteflika and Bashir are not aberrations. They reflect a surprising trend across the continent, despite common perceptions of Africa as racked by violence and conflict. Since 2000, most rebellions there have been unarmed and peaceful. And saying in this case, the military's loyalty shifted from the bottom up. Foot soldiers were siding with protesters on the street several days before top generals convened a midnight meeting to oust Bashir from office. Accor plans 60 new hotels in Africa, half of them in Egypt. I interviewed the managing director for Accor in Kenya. That link is on the website. Will open 60 new hotels in 14 countries in Africa in the next 4 years, saying Egypt has overtaken Kenya's coastal region as the preferred destination for European tourists and investors. He said, in revenue per available Accor room there has risen 20% year on year. Kenya's coastal city of Mombasa is not at the forefront of people's minds today, he said. Key markets in Accor's growth plan include Nigeria, Ethiopia, and South Africa, where it will open 10, 7, and 3 hotels by 2020. It has 143 hotels in Africa, 63 of them south of the Sahara, and will promote its Movenpick luxury brand. They've got $1 billion fund Casada Fund set up by Qatar Hospitality and ACOR last year for Sub-Saharan Africa. I conducted an interview with Mehdi Morad, who's the country general manager Kenya for Movenpick and ACOR. Cyril Ramaphosa approval rating is 60%, while his two main rivals, Mumusi Maimane and Julius Malema, polled 42% and 38% respectively. Ramaphosa disrupted his election campaign's schedule earlier this month to rush to Alexandra Township when he learned that residents there were burning tires and barricading roads to protest squalid living conditions. He told them they'd been heard. Your message has gone through the whole country, that you are sick and tired of poor service delivery, he thundered. You, as people of Alexandra, want people who will serve you better. 55% of adults canvassed late last year by the University of Johannesburg expressed trust in Ramaphosa, compared with 26% under Zuma. Among his hobbies, he owns a buffalo and antelope ranch and breeds longhorned Ugandan Ankoli cattle. He is the son of the soil, understands farming and understands what has to be done to correct the course the country is on. That's a 64-year-old Afrikaner farmer saying that. I believe that Ramaphosa is the one who can save South Africa, said Bayers Truter, a wiry, bearded wine farmer who attended the gathering. Ramaphosa is better than Zuma. With Zuma there was just corruption. That time was problematic. Now things are better. I like his quote of Ben Okri. We dream of a new politics that will renew the world under their weary, suspicious gaze. There's always a new way, a better way that's not been tried before. South African all shares up 11.24% year to date. Dollar Rand just holding below this key level of 1440 to 1460, let's say. Egyptian pound, well, that's a currency mirabilis, of course. Egyptian stock market up 13.31% year to date. Nigerian all share down 6.07% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange down 4.43% year to date. Don McCullin. This is a photograph of the Dasanek tribe in Omo Valley, southern Ethiopia. This is a photograph I took of Pemba Island from the sky when we were flying back from Maputo and had landed at Pemba. And if you watch this video from TikTok, you'll see collapsed homes and waist-deep water. Aerial footage shows the town of Pemba, Mozambique, completely flooded from Cyclone Kenneth. This takes me back to the weather tail risk, which I said is seriously elevated on a near-term, medium-term and long-term basis, and in a very non-linear outcome. Africa is 18 of the 20 most climate-affected countries. Very interesting essay by Africa at LSE, Eritrea, from war and oppression to peace and development. The president of Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki, rose to prominence in the struggle for independence achieved from Ethiopia in 1991, where he moved from heroic liberator to iron-fisted saboteur of that independence. Country has not been in a full-blown war for quite a number of years. In short, the no war, no peace situation with Ethiopia was used as a justification to hold the country hostage and to tighten Isaias's totalitarian grip on the population. Basically saying he's currently facing a political bottleneck with no room to manipulate and maneuver his way out. He now lives in a secluded, inaccessible and hidden from public village in Adi Hallow, outside the capital city, become an isolated and lonely leader with depleted and crumbling political capital, who is decreasingly likely to regain control. Now, this is a photograph from Eritrea's Independence Day, May 1991.